Welcome to the Good News Mama podcast, a place to get in touch with other mamas, share the load, and know the Lord. Here we aim to lift each other up in the good news of Jesus and the laughter that comes with motherhood. We are a community of mamas just trying to keep the main thing the main thing. I'm your host, Lynn Carter, and each time you tune in, I pray you are encouraged and that you leave challenged and breathe a sigh of relief that you are understood. We were not meant to do life alone, Mama. Thanks for joining in. Let's do this and let's share the good news. Hey, thanks for joining us on the second part of Eric and Cameron's message. They're doing part 2B, 0 to 20 years. This half of the episode, they focus on the personality test that they took, the way that they grew from learning about each other and about themselves, how they attended marriage conferences, and how they learned to get through tough times that turned into funny stories. They share about the importance of apologizing and having a Christ-centered marriage. We touch on boundaries with in-laws and conflicts between each other and how those conflicts lead to growth moments. They talk about how couples really need to focus on staying intentionally connected, especially during this season of marriage. I hope you guys enjoy it because, again, they don't disappoint. I hope this episode challenges you to grow together in marriage with your spouse. And here they are, picking up right where we left off last time with Cameron and Eric Lowe. Touch on a little bit for me some of the resources that you guys use in your marriage as far as like devotion stuff or just marriage growth type of things, because I know you guys are the ones that I first heard the word podcast from. I think I told you this, Cameron. This is our friendship right here. This is how awesome you guys are. And it was definitely 10 years ago when I was there at your house. And I think it was Craig Rochelle was one of the leaders that you guys were listening to at the time. And I was so naive. I thought his name was Craig Rochelle instead of Craig Rochelle. And then got to listening and looking and I'm like, okay, I messed that up. But I was so just amazed. I did have an iPod, right? I don't think I had a shuffle, but I knew like what that was, but I had no idea about the live broadcast, stuff like that, broadcast podcasting. So anyway, that was you guys. So really everybody can thank you guys for this podcast even existing. Yes.
You're welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes. Checks in the mail.
There you go.
Yes. So all that to say is anything that you guys think that you really maybe 10 years ago or even now that you're like, this person really speaks into my life, this curriculum, whatever.
So we were talking about that earlier, and we couldn't remember a whole lot. One of the things I think that was really important for us early on, though, was figuring out personalities. So whatever inventory for us, I happened to get certified in Myers-Briggs, and so we learned a lot about ourselves and a lot about each other through that. But there have been other things too, like the love languages.
Yeah, but that's just huge.
That was huge.
I mean, in the love languages, those type of personality or how you're bent have worked.
Oh yeah,
huge.
I tell everybody when I'm doing my Myers-Briggs classes and stuff like that the Myers-Briggs saved my marriage.
Yeah, so
yeah.
It is, and it was probably more so me than her or anybody else. But like especially early on in our marriage, would look at her and wonder, why are you doing this? Thinking that she should be thinking the same exact way I am, and so should everybody else. And why are you not? Because and so learning how she is wired, and here's what her personality is, and realize that's how God wired her, and leaning into that has been just
Tell me, just take a couple minutes because I'm dying inside. Tell me a couple minutes what each of you are with your personality types. Or you don't have to label it a certain thing, but what's like one of the things that's helped you, like an aha moment for your spouse?
So for me, the biggest aha moment for me, I'm an extrovert, he's an introvert. On as far opposite end of the spectrum probably as you could get. Every aspect of our personality is diametrically opposite. But anyway, but so for him, and I jumped in first because of this, for him, it is very, very, and my family background too. So, I come from a family loud and we interrupt each other and there's always noise and always mess. And so for me to interrupt somebody is nothing. That's just how we operate, how we communicate. And I didn't realize before all the research about who he is that when I interrupt him, that is like almost the cardinal sin that just makes him feel so disrespected.
Yeah.
And really learning that one little fact and being able to, and I can't always control it. I still jump in and interrupt him. But when I do, just like tonight, we were at the dinner table and I jumped in, I interrupted him, and then I was like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Girl, me, right? You see this finger? I'm pointing at me. It's me too. I'm sorry. Even
That's
on this
right.
podcast, I'm sorry I've interrupted. I try to keep my mouth shut. Not good at it. I'm a work in progress. I feel you there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So that was one of the biggest revelations for me, at least.
And we wanted to figure that out without doing those personalities and going through the, the love languages studies and that kind of stuff. And I'm more like of facts and figures and probably wrongly, a lot of times things are black and white. And
engineer.
Engineer, yeah. And here's how you can solve the problem. This is all you have to do right here if you just do these 3 things. And learning that that's not how she's wired. Oftentimes that's not what she needs. She's more relational oriented. And I find too, and this can impact our date nights at times when things aren't right with our kids. There's been times when we've gone off to date nights and we're wondering if we really should be doing this because, things have fallen apart at home with the kids and they're fighting or we're fighting, that kind of stuff. And if those things aren't right, or at least somewhat resolved, her headspace is not in date night, and so, but I've learned that. So, early on, I would have been like, we'll just snap out of it. They're over here, we're over here. We're going to do our thing.
Compartment.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Yep. She's more the ball of yarn, and I'm the compartment. Put it in the compartment, and let's go do DNA. She can't. And so, learning that about her and learning to try to figure out how to help her resolve some of those tensions and that kind of stuff. Oftentimes you can't, but just learning about that. I mean, we would have never known that. We hadn't done types of studies together and that kind of stuff. So I think that's been phenomenal for our.
Have you guys done the Enneagram? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I've done a shorter version of it. Can't remember what I am. No. Want to go back through it eventually, but I'm probably somewhere wherever you are, Lynn.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, I'm a 7. I'm an enthusiast. It's basically like fun. Let's do this. Let's be together. Let's go. Don't like pain. Don't want to get things smoothed over, kind of thing, and move on and have fun. So that to me, which I don't know all the Myers-Briggs stuff, which sounds like that was a deep dive into really picking out and highlighting important things. And to me, when Ben and I did the Enneagram, and he's a 6, which is a loyalist, like don't you dare cross him because you're off his list type of person. And I've known that about him from the beginning, but when we're reading these descriptions, we're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
This is amazing. Like how, and it's not like confining you to that number, but it's expanding your mindset of, wow, this is how I operate. This is exactly why I do what I do. And just the thought that, like you said, you never would have known. Like when I started this podcast, Ben was not like, yes, jump in with 2 feet. Let's do this. He's more reserved. Like, let's test the waters. Let's make sure, pull back the reins type of thing. So I could not think that he was just not supporting me or that he was disappointed or that sort of thing. I had to understand, okay, look, I want to do this thing. I know you're probably hesitant about it, but I need you to hear me out on this. And I had to understand, like, I cannot expect him to be throwing a party inside like I am at the thought of doing this. That's not his personality at all. So it made me have more realistic expectations of how I could anticipate his reaction versus how I wanted him to react, just based on personality stuff. I mean, it just, like you said, it really, really helped our marriage, knowing that going into, even just the past year learning those things, because we did 5 love languages, we did strengths finders, which I've talked about before, and it is good. It's nice to know kind of how their mind works and how they operates. But for some reason, the twist on that personality type thing, it was like, golly, Dave, that's spot on. And it also talks about that particular test, like when you're in times of stress, you kind of err on this side of behavior, and when you're in times of, everything's going great, you react a different way. Blew my mind. Like, amazing. So I totally get that. I can be right in the same camp as you guys. These personality tests, they save things for us, save the marriage.
I said, if I'm ever going to marry somebody, and if I have to do marriage counseling for them, like, I'm going to bring her in, and she's going to do part of it's going to be personality tests. But if we had known that from day one,
oh yeah, a lot of things would have gone a little smoother, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Aside from knowing each other's personalities sooner, is there anything, well, I may have interrupted you on that. Were there any other resources you thought about besides personality tests?
There were a couple of conferences early on that we went to. And so any kind of marriage conference, there were church, I think one of them was a local church did a marriage conference, and they talked a whole lot about communication styles, difference between men and women. That was kind of helpful very early on. And then we went to one, I don't even remember where it was Mark Driscoll did that one, and that was later in marriage. I think you were living with us then. Maybe.
I don't know, but I went to that one with Mark Driscoll.
Yeah.
Ben and I went to one. Ours was in Lynchburg. That's a whole nother episode.
Yeah. It probably is. But it was a good one.
Yeah. It was, it definitely, wow, it was good. I can attest to those things too, for sure. Some marriage conferences.
Oh yeah. And then the Andy Stanley date night things, we went through those. Remember? I think we gave you and Ben
a binder.
Yep. So ultimate date night or ultimate date experience or something like that. That was really fun.
It's amazing, especially starting out in marriage. Like you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And at least I did. I thought I would know how to do this marriage thing, but there was so much that I didn't know. But I didn't know that I didn't know it until we go to these conferences. And hey, look, there's a difference between men and women. And I never thought about that or never knew that. And there's such a thing as different personalities. Here's what different, So I think the sooner people can do that, I would encourage them to humble yourselves and try to dig in as much as you can. But we talked about too, and I think we've relied less and less on those resources because we know the things that are important, especially the biblical foundation of them. And so the last season, the season we're in, is more of just leaning into what we've learned, early on, and just making sure it stays a part of who we are in our relationship, that kind of stuff. So, crisis management, reconciliation, those kind of things, and patience and that kind of stuff. We know that we learned that early.
Now it's an application.
Now it's making sure we keep grinding on that wheel. So.
And gentle reminders, right?
Yes, that's
what did we say? Growth moments.
Growth moment, yeah.
No, label that. These are just growth moments.
That's right.
I'm just growing, just painfully growing. Growing pains. But yeah, that all sounds amazing. I was, the thing with the Myers-Briggs, because you're certified in that, you knew kind of how to interpret, apply, and that sort of thing. Is there a place when people go online to do something like that? Do they just get a test that they take and it gives them the information and then they just hash it out with each other from there? Or do you recommend like a counseling session or look for a local, somebody certified and that type of thing?
There are short versions of the test online. I mean, I'd say, I don't know that that's any better than like the Enneagram or something like that you can do on your own. I mean, if you're doing, you can pay for more expensive, more in-depth versions of the test and then go through the results with somebody. And that is very helpful because it's one of those assessments where there are just so many intricacies. It really helps to have somebody who has been through the process and understands all the differences and things like that. But I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say start with something.
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be any of these that we've talked about, but just find something. And something's better than nothing. And just start there and just learn about how each one is wired. And, today on the internet, I mean, there's so many, just Google something and something will pop up and there's some test you can take. And that's better than nothing, or somewhere. So.
Yeah. But I mean, as you want to go deeper, I'd recommend totally get somebody that can do results, but start somewhere for sure.
Is there, obviously knowing each other's personality sooner would have been a great asset. Is there anything else that you would have done differently in the earlier years?
I would have liked for us to have, I don't think we fought about money, but that was just mainly because I like to keep peace and didn't want to say anything. So I think I would have been much freer in communication and marriage and those types of things had we budgeted earlier, really kind of started that process earlier. But I wasn't ready for it earlier. So I don't know that I'd do that. I don't know that I would have been accepting of it any earlier. So I think that happened at the right time, but I didn't realize how freeing that would be. But like I said, we've never really thought about money so much.
I think we've thought about everything.
Well, for sure.
I don't think there's anything we have not thought about.
That's probably true.
I just know something that's blown up.
Yeah.
I can't think of.
I wouldn't throw his clothes into the front yard. I wouldn't have put the clothes in a bag before I threw them in the front yard because he threw mine in the front yard, not in a bag. So having that
easier to clean up. So what is this, like year 0 to 5 when this happened? Or was this like last week?
No. It was one of our first years in this house. I just remember I was so mad. I was throwing all the, our bedroom was at the top of the stairs at that time.
Get out of here. He's like, he's gonna go out the window. Yep.
Yeah, she was like throwing my stuff out and she was like, "You're gonna leave." And I'm like, "Well, why am I leaving? This is my house too." And I'm throwing her stuff out and
oh wow. Yeah.
Growth moment. It was a growth moment.
Growth moment. I remember showing up at y'all's house one night in the early stages of marriage. I don't even remember what the fight was about, but I was at y'all's house one night. I didn't have anywhere else to go. I'm like, all his family is up here. I'm gonna go see Cameron and Eric.
That's it. There you go.
I have to get away from this crazy guy, so I'm on the road and I'm gonna go 10 minutes away. And I think it's important that people know that happens and that's real and that's life and you just learn from it, you grow and you just keep going. So
and then you have really funny stories to tell.
You do. And I think, I get like we are far from having this thing figured out and we fail and fight and argue all the time. But I think one of the biggest things I've learned is apology. The importance of apology. I mean, I think my family, we've always been apologetic when we've wronged people, but just especially in a marriage relationship, how important that is. Yes, we can fight. Yes, we can have our strong opinions, but at some point in time, we've got to humble ourselves and apologize for what we've done, our fault in it. And again, I think we'll probably fight till the day we die.
Because we're both hard-headed.
But
as long as you stay human, it's gonna happen.
And I was talking to somebody the other day. I don't know. My heart goes out to couples who don't have a biblical foundation for their marriage because they don't have something in common that they could go back to and say, okay, well, here's what the book says. Here's what the rules are. Here's how we fight.
Yeah.
Or here's how you don't fight next time. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so my heart goes out to those couples because they, what are they going to base their arguments on? She can have her opinion. He can have her opinion. Where you figure out who's right and who's wrong. And so, my heart goes out to them. But I think, that's something that we just will continue to have to work on together for the rest of our lives.
But I think just because of what you just said, that have that biblical foundation, that center in Christ, that it gives us really more of a freedom to fight and argue and disagree because we have that solid, firm foundation. I think it's not always a guessing game. Is this the fight that breaks us up? It's always a growth moment because, we always know we're going to bounce back from this. I'm going to be ticked off all night long tonight. I'm probably going to sleep on the couch, but he's not. I'm probably going to sleep.
I like the
You
video.
are so stubborn. It makes me so mad.
Probably because it makes you more mad if he doesn't get upset. That's
yes. But just knowing that this isn't going to be the fight that ends it all. We're going to work through it. We're going to figure it out. We're going to come back to center at some point.
Definitely. The first house that we lived in, I remember plenty of times Ben and I yelling at each other, and he's getting ready to walk out the door. And I'm like thinking to myself, why is he still standing there? Just go. Like, and he would say later, he would admit to me, like, I wanted you to say, don't go, don't leave. And I'm like, no, you need to go. Keep going out the door and come back when you're over this. Like, it was just hilarious. It's almost like that he would have been more satisfied if I'd been like, no, don't stay. Let's work through this. I'm like, no, you need to get out.
That's right.
So, yes, it's so important. Like you said, have that cool off period, but then have that common ground, like that third strand of the marriage, like Christ bringing you back to where you both can say, I'm imperfect, you're imperfect, but this is why we're in this relationship. And we're going to keep doing this until we die, because we said we would, and God's ordained it. He's blessed it. And I agree completely. That's so foundational. I have so many more questions. I'm looking at the time like, how is it even? This is not possible. I'm just going to have to give a disclaimer at the beginning of this episode and be like, look, y'all, I can't stick to 30 minutes. It's just not going to happen. I get on this podcast with my friends. We're rolling. We're having fun. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's 8:30. Okay.
And we're catching up.
Yeah.
I mean, we might split it in half, do like a 2-part. I don't know. We'll see. Because I need this in my life. Can you tell? This is why all these questions are on this page. Like,
we all do.
Give me your wisdom. There are a few key things I want to hit before we close. I know you guys have changed careers in your marriage. I was just wondering if that really was a big road bump, not so much. You were just kind of like, let's go, let's do this, we'll work it out, or any thoughts you had on that?
For me, so I've transitioned twice. And those have been very hard decisions for me. And they were certainly a process. They weren't something I woke up one morning and said, "Oh, I'm going to change jobs." It's something I thought about for long and hard, and things that I would spend a lot of time talking to her about it. So much so that she would say, "Okay, you need to do something. I'm tired of hearing about it." But I was so thankful because she was very, very supportive of whatever I felt like I needed to do. She would always say that she was 100% behind me. I would always support you. And that was huge to me, to know that I had her support, and knowing that I wasn't doing something crazy. She would have corrected me if I was. But so to her saying that she supported me, let me know that I wasn't doing something crazy. And so I don't think it was, for me, during my transitions, those weren't difficult transitions in that I knew that you were behind me and supported me.
And for me, like, he's been the push. Like, I've always kind of, I think, known when it was time to make the transition, but I'm a peacekeeper. I don't like to rock the boat. And I think he's been really good about giving me the gentle nudge, like going when Ashton was very young, saying, I don't think we can keep up this pace with 2 kids. And then, okay, it's time for me to look for something else. And then coming back to the job that I love, coming back to Extension, it was him that said, most teachers teach because you love the kids, and you don't love the kids. So go ahead for this.
And that is not a sin, by the way.
It's wisdom. So it's just, I think for both of us, maybe it's just we've given each other the freedom to do those things.
Yes. That's awesome. And I'm going to preface this with, Eric, I'm not trying to get you in trouble, but I did want to talk about boundaries with in-laws, because like you and I, we're Curry Tuck transplants, okay? I feel like I can call myself a Curry Tuckian, right? I've been here 10 years. Please, can somebody just affirm me in that? I can say, okay. But I was not born and raised here. Cameron Lowe, Ben Carter. So I just want to know, like, you've got your in-laws, in your back pocket, basically, like down the road, down the street. Did you guys set up boundaries? And then your parents are from Raleigh, right?
Fayetteville.
Fayetteville. Okay, I'm sorry. Piedmont. They're from little westerly from here. And when they come to visit, when you guys are doing holidays, I mean, did you guys from the get-go say, these are some boundaries we need to set, or did you guys just kind of roll with it and learn the hard way? How was that?
So first off, in terms of, you said holidays, and that was a trigger point for me. No, we didn't do a good job setting up boundaries in terms of holidays. That was a lot of fights for many years until we kind of navigated through that. So I'd say, no, we didn't set, from my perspective, boundaries at the beginning. And I think maybe that's one thing that I would wish. We're really good now about asking, saying, his family's coming in town. Is this a good weekend? Or, hey, I'm going to go up to mom and daddy's for a little while. Are you good with that? I think we're real good about communicating now, but I don't think we were at the outset. And I think that did lead to some pretty big blow-ups from time to time. Would you agree?
Yeah, and I think it was a lot of assumptions were made instead of running stuff by each other, particularly with my parents coming in town.
Taking the baby.
I just assumed like, hey, I thought that was going to be a good idea. And but I'm learning now to run stuff by her. Is it okay that they come this weekend? This is what they want to do. Is that okay? If not, we'll work it out. So run the stuff by each other. And something else too, and I certainly credit her for this. This isn't anything we talked about. I don't think we ever had a fight about it. But the conflicts that we have stayed between us. We've worked it out between us. She hasn't ever, and I haven't as well, gone and sought our parents.
Yes.
He or she did this,
right.
Can you believe, and she never did that too. And so as much as she might have wanted to point out, and like, he's a jerk, and why do you guys like him? He's a jerk. She didn't, and we would fight internally. We would work it out internally, and I think that's huge, because if she had gone, that would just have probably driven a wedge between me and them, and not unfair to them because they didn't do anything. But I'm glad that didn't happen. So.
Nor do I ever call his mother or fuss to his mother about him, because
there's nothing to fuss about. So.
Right.
Because she'd hang up the phone on you and be like, "Not my baby."
That's right. That's right. But I mean, I know people do that, and I don't think we ever felt like that was an appropriate thing to do, so we didn't do that. But I will disagree with you on one point. There was one time that I did run to my parents' house, and it was when we found the snake in the vent, and you wanted to stay here.
I would have had to do the same thing. Evacuation. Mandatory evacuation.
That's right.
So the snake is relocated in the ground.
It was a quiet night that night.
I bet it was.
Did you actually sleep? Oh my gosh.
After I checked the sheets real good.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I cannot even imagine that. You guys, anything else you wanted to share regarding that with the in-laws? I think you did a good job keeping it clean.
Yeah.
No, I think and just realizing too their strengths is in-laws. I mean, I have a lot of respect for them over the years, and just seeing what they've done for our family, and all the love that they've given us over the years, and just I think my respect for my in-laws, her parents, have grown because of just seeing what they do and how much they care for us and that kind of stuff. And they care for it in their own ways, but at this point in time, I really do feel blessed to have in-laws that I do. Well,
and they've both been such just phenomenal examples for healthy marriages.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and they must have done something right, because we like each other. So.
Right.
They raised each other.
That's right.
Raised.
I would agree completely. I'm very blessed with my in-laws too. In fact, the oldest two are with Ben at my in-laws. So there you go. That support system. I don't know what I'd do without it.
Zechariah got us through very many date nights, the early
That's
seasons
right.
when we did have to have babysitter. Well, yep.
Yes. Just quickly touching on, you guys do a small group every week. You have other couples that speak into your lives, that you speak into their lives on a regular basis from church, I guess, those types of things. I make that a priority. That's a weekly thing that through church, or bi-monthly. How do you say that? 2 times a month?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good.
Yep.
And do y'all do couple devotions? Do y'all pray together? Anything like that?
I think that was one of the things I thought about when you said what we have done differently, wish you had done differently. I think, we don't pray together as a couple as much as we should. And I think early on, if I could go back in time and start over again, is one of the things I wish we would have done more often, is praying together as a couple. I think if nothing else too, it just really ties our hearts together. It humbles us in those moments too. So that's certainly something I wish we've done more. And we've done couples devotionals periodically, not very much. She's got her things that she does. I got my things that I do.
But it works.
It works, yeah.
There you go. I would agree with the tying our hearts together, that sort of thing, because I felt that way about Ben and I when we pray together. Sometimes we'll be talking and it'll be something that, a news story we heard or something that's just really unsettling, and just that fear creeps in and we just start worrying about our kids or our family. We're just like, let's pray. Let's just pray right now and just ask God to just cover us and lead us, that sort of thing. And it just kind of brings you back to not giving into the fear and the unknown and, just all the lies and the doubts that the enemy would love to divide you and your family over and things like that. So, okay. I will finish with this question. I know we're cutting into Eric's bedtime, so. Oh, you're such a good sport, Eric. Thank you. What would you say to the couple in this phase of their marriage? What words of encouragement, or maybe they're struggling, or anything that you think that might benefit them at this point?
I would say that, well, at this point in our marriage where we've got older teenage girls that are getting ready to be out of the house, and we're about to be all by ourselves, before too long, again, that it's just so important to stay intentionally connected and really set aside time to focus on each other. That really needs to be the number one priority.
Yeah. And I would say if a couple is struggling, I mean, what are you struggling in? And then go to the source, go to the Bible. What does the Bible say about that? I mean, because it's easy to get your answers from your in-laws or the internet or some podcast other than Lynn.
Touche, you got me back.
But really relying on God's word in that area that they're struggling in. If they don't know what they're struggling in and it seems like everything is a struggle, then I think certainly trying to figure out how to spend more time together. Because chances are, if they're struggling and it seems like everything is a struggle, they've lost that connection. And trying to figure out how to carve out that time to build that connection again.
Yeah. One of the other things that I would say too is also making time for yourself individually. Because again, we're about to have a whole lot of free time.
That's right.
I don't spend every minute of that free. I mean, as much as I love this man,
love you, can't do it. Babu, I need my time.
24/7. I gotta have a hobby or something. So that's kind of I think that's probably at this stage in life, at this stage in our relationship, I think that's probably something to look forward to too.
Yep, I agree.
Awesome. You guys are amazing. I just
love you, Lynn.
From the bottom of my heart. I do. I love you so much. And I'm so thankful to God for blessing me and Ben both individually and as a couple. Just the way that you guys live your lives, the way that you make God a priority in your marriage and in your home. Like I said, like I knew a lot of this stuff just from living with you for the year and a half almost before Ben and I got married, which I'm forever grateful for that. It's just, anyway, I can't thank you enough. You guys are awesome. I couldn't think of anybody else that could fill this role for this moment in time, speaking to lives right now. I mean, whoever listens to this, I hope they'll make it all the way through, for one, because I've talked y'all's heads off. But for me, I've got, look at this page. I got a whole page of notes that I've been taking because me and Ben Carter are going to sit down and we're going to talk about some things. It's important. It's so good.
Sorry, Ben.
That's right. He'll be calling you up. But I'm so grateful for y'all. Tell me how I can pray for you. What do y'all need this year? Do you guys have anything that you're asking God for?
Just continued wisdom in parenting these teenage girls.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a different stage of life. It is a different stage of parenting. It's a whole new ball game.
Yeah. The 13 going on 30.
Oh yeah.
Mentality. I can do that for sure. That
would be my biggest.
Yep. Most definitely.
Yep.
All right. Well, let me finish closing out with a prayer for you guys. Okay. Awesome. All right. Dear God, I can't thank you enough for this couple. The way that you've blessed them, the way that you've guided them in their lives and their marriage and this community, just what they mean to so many people in so many ways. God, I just thank you for giving them the courage and the boldness to speak out in your name and to trust you and the bumps in their marriage and to always have that common ground to go back to. God, I thank you for the example they've been to me and to Ben. Thank you for the wisdom they've shared today. God, I lift them up to you and pray for their lives. I pray for their marriage. I pray for their children and just the hurdles that they'll overcome in the horizon of teenage years and young adulthood. And as Eric and Cameron help them navigate that time. I pray you give them godly wisdom. I pray you'd help them to speak up when they need to speak up, when their daughters need a word of encouragement or a word of correction. And I pray you'd help them to be quiet when they need to kind of struggle through it on their own a little bit, and just give them the wisdom to know what time is the right time for those sorts of guidance in their kids' lives. And Lord, I just pray favor on them and on their family, and just help them in this year to seek you wholeheartedly for the things that maybe you've been putting on their heart that they've not been sure where you've been leading in their lives. Lord, I pray that you give them clarity for that. I pray that you just help them to continue to have an awesome impact, and not just on this community, but on each other, and just encouraging each other in your word and your truth. And I just, my heart's so full, God. Thank you for them. Thank you for this time. I'll lift it up to you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I love you guys. Thank you.
We love you, Lenny.
Thanks, Len.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Good News Mama. If you did, please leave me a review on iTunes. A 5-star review is best, and hit subscribe. Share with your friends on Instagram and Facebook. Please email me at lynn@goodnewsmama.com. You know I love questions. I love feedback. I want to know what you want to know. We're going to talk about what means something to you. So let's hear it. Follow me on Instagram at Good News Mamas. That's mamas with an S. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Keep your head up, keep your heart humble, and share that good news.